It was a cold, cloudy afternoon in the city. School had just ended, and kids rushed out of the gates, laughing and shouting. But Eli, a 13-year-old boy with big eyes and a small backpack, walked alone. His house was only a few blocks away. He didn't want to go the normal way today. He wanted to be home quickly. So, he turned into the narrow alley behind the old bookstore, a shortcut his mom told him never to use. "It's not safe," she had said. "Stay on the main road." But today, Eli didn't listen. The alley was quiet. Too quiet. Trash cans stood in the corners. A broken shopping cart lay on its side. Water dripped from the pipes above. The sun couldn't even reach inside. Eli kept walking. His footsteps echoed. Suddenly voices. "Well, look who we have here." 3 older boys stepped out from behind a dumpster. One wore a red hoodie, another had a chain around his neck, and the third chewed gum loudly. Eli froze. These weren't strangers. They went to his school. They were always trouble. "Were you going in such a hurry, little man?" The boy in red smirked. "Got something in that bag for us?" Eli clutched his backpack tighter. "Please, I just want to go home," he said quietly. They laughed. "You hear that? He wants to go home." One of them pushed Eli's shoulder. Another grabbed his bag. "Let's see what you got in here." "Snacks, a phone, money." Eli's heart raced. He tried to step back, but the third boy blocked his path. "What's wrong?" Scared, Eli looked around. No one. No help, just cold walls and dirty puddles. Then, a sound. A deep cough came from the shadows near the back of the alley. The boys turned. Out of the darkness, a man stepped forward. He wore an old brown coat, torn at the sleeves. His shoes didn't match. His beard was long and messy. He looked tired, dirty, but his eyes were sharp. He looked at the bullies with quiet strength. "Leave the boy alone," he said. His voice was calm but firm. The boys stared at him. "Who's this? Some drunk old man?" "Mind your business, Grandpa." The man didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He just stepped closer. His eyes didn't blink. His shoulders stood straight. I said, "Leave him now." For a moment, no one moved. Then the boy with the chain laughed nervously. "Man's crazy. Let's just go." They dropped Eli's bag and backed away. One by one, they left the alley cursing under their breath. Eli was left standing in the cold. The man turned to him slowly. "You okay, kid?" Eli nodded. He was still shaking. "Thank you," he whispered. The man picked up the bag and handed it to him. His hands were rough, his fingernails dirty, but there was something gentle in the way he moved. Eli stared at him. "Why did you help me?" he asked. The man looked away. "Because once someone helped me." Eli didn't know what to say. He had never seen this man before. "Do you live here?" he asked. The man chuckled sadly. "Not exactly. I just pass through. Sometimes I rest behind that dumpster when the nights are too cold." He pointed to a pile of cardboard. "I'm sorry," Eli said. The man smiled. "Don't be. Life doesn't always go the way we plan." Eli opened his backpack and took out a sandwich his mom had packed. "You hungry?" The man hesitated, then nodded. "More than you know." Eli handed him the sandwich. "It's peanut butter. Hope that's okay." The man took a bite slowly. "It's perfect." They sat in silence for a moment. Eli looked at him again. The man's beard covered most of his face, but something about his eyes felt familiar, like he had seen them before. "What's your name?" Eli asked. The man wiped his mouth. "Names don't mean much on the street," he replied, "but you can call me James." Eli nodded. "I'm Eli." James looked at him closely. "That's a good name. Strong name." The sky grew darker. Wind picked up. Eli stood up. "I should go. My mom's probably worried." James nodded. "Go straight home, and no more alleys." Eli smiled a little. "You sound like her." James looked down. "Maybe she's smart." Eli took a few steps, then turned back. "Will you be here tomorrow?" James looked up from the sandwich. "I don't know, maybe." Eli thought for a moment. "I'll bring you something else. My mom makes great soup." James laughed softly. "Then I'll try to stay close." As Eli walked out of the alley, the rain began to fall, but he didn't feel cold anymore. Something about that man, his voice, his eyes stayed with him, and he couldn't stop thinking, why did he seem familiar? And why did James look at me like he knew me, long before today? The next afternoon, Eli returned to the alley with a small bag in his hands. Inside it was a thermos of hot soup and a buttered roll just like his mom made every weekend. He had told her he was staying after school for library work. He didn't want to lie, but how could he explain James, the homeless man who had saved him, the man with kind eyes and a past that felt too familiar? As Eli reached the alley, his steps slowed. What if James wasn't there? What if it had all been some strange dream? But then he saw him. James was sitting on a crate, wrapped in his coat, eyes closed, hands folded. "Hey," Eli said softly. James opened one eye, then smiled. "I was hoping you'd come back." Eli handed him the bag. "Still warm," he said. James opened it and sniffed the steam. "Smells better than anything I've had in years." They sat side by side in the quiet alley. James ate slowly, with care. Eli watched him, wondering so many questions. "You said yesterday, someone helped you once," Eli began. James nodded. "That's right. Who was it?" James looked into the distance. "A friend. A good one. He pulled me out of fire once. Both real and not. What happened to him? James's jaw tightened. He didn't make it. Eli was quiet. I'm sorry. James smiled weakly. Me too. There was a long pause. Then Eli reached into his bag again and pulled out an old photo. This is my dad, he said. It showed a man in uniform, smiling with his arm around a baby Eli. James's face changed the moment he saw it. His eyes widened. He reached for the photo with slow hands. What's his name? He asked. David. David Carter. James froze. The name hit him like thunder. David, he whispered. David Carter. You knew him? Eli asked quickly. James closed his eyes. Yes, I knew him. But he said nothing more. His hands shook. His throat tightened. He gave the photo back carefully. He was a good man, James said. Did you serve with him? In the army? Eli asked. James didn't answer directly. Something like that. Eli leaned in. What happened to him? James looked down. I'm not the one who should tell you. Why not? Because some truths come with pain, and I've already caused enough. Eli's heart pounded. What do you mean? James stood up suddenly. You should go, kid. No, wait. What do you mean by that? James stepped back. Go home, please. Eli stood there, confused. Hurt. James disappeared into the back of the alley behind the dumpster. Eli waited a few moments, but the man didn't come back. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. His mind raced with questions. James knew his father. That much was clear. But how, and why wouldn't he say more? The way he looked at the photo, like, it haunted him. He went to the closet and pulled out the same box where the photo had come from. Old papers, letters, a watch, a military tag with D. Carter, and then a folded envelope, yellow with time, on the back. It said, for Eli when he's ready. Eli's hands trembled. He opened it. Inside was a short letter, written in his father's handwriting. My dear son, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't be there to raise you, but I hope you've grown into a strong, kind soul. I want to tell you something important about a man named James. He was my best friend, my brother in every way but blood. One day, something went wrong, a mission, a fire, and I didn't come back, but he did. Don't blame him. He tried to save me. If you ever meet him, listen. He carries more pain than most, but deep inside he's good. Trust him. He might find you when you need him most. Just like he found me when I did. Eli's eyes burned with tears. The man in the alley wasn't just a stranger. He was his father's best friend. And maybe, just maybe, the last piece of the truth Eli had never known. The next day at school, Eli sat quietly in class, staring out the window. His teacher talked about science, but Eli couldn't hear a word. His head was full of questions. James, my father's best friend. Why is he homeless now? What happened on that mission? Why did no one tell me before? At lunch, he pulled out the letter again. His father's words echoed. Don't blame him. He tried to save me. He might find you when you need him most. Eli whispered. That's exactly what happened. After school, Eli didn't go home. Instead, he walked straight to the alley. The same alley where it all began. James wasn't there. Only trash cans, pigeons, silence. Eli waited. Minutes passed. His heart sank. Then footsteps behind him. He turned. James stood at the far end of the alley, holding a worn-out blanket. He looked surprised and a little sad. Didn't expect to see you again, he said. I read the letter, Eli replied. James froze. You found it. Eli nodded. My dad said you tried to save him. James slowly sat down on a crate. His voice cracked. He was a good man, brave, strong. He always had my back, even when I didn't deserve it. What happened that day? Eli asked softly. Flashback. BGNS desert, smoke, gunfire, a burning Jeep. James and David, Eli's dad, running toward a building on fire. They had been rescuing civilians during a mission overseas. An explosion hits. James is thrown back. David is trapped inside. James tries to run in, but another soldier grabs him. It's too late. James screams, no, let me go. That's my brother. But it's too late. The fire eats the building. James falls to his knees. Flashback. Eondis. James's voice shakes. I left the army after that. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept hearing his voice. You blame yourself? Eli asked. James nodded. I do, every single day. Eli sat beside him. But my dad didn't blame you. He trusted you. He showed James the letter. James read it slowly. His hands trembled. When he finished, tears filled his eyes. He forgave me. He always did. Eli whispered. James wiped his face. I don't deserve it. I disappeared. I lost everything. But you saved me, Eli said. James looked confused. What? Those boys in the alley. You didn't walk away. You stepped in. James was silent. Eli continued. You may have lost your way, but that doesn't mean you can't come back, James whispered. You sound just like him. The wind blew gently. Eli opened his backpack. I brought something. He handed James a folded piece of paper. It was a photo I and his dad, taken years ago. James held it like a treasure. Thank you, he said. You should come with me, Eli said. You don't have to live like this. James shook his head. I'm not ready, not yet, but promise me, Eli said. You'll stay close. I want to keep talking. I want to know more about my dad, and about you. James smiled for the first time in a long time. That I can promise. They sat there until the sun began to set, and for the first time, Eli didn't feel lost. He felt like he had found a missing piece of his father's life, a piece still alive, still breathing, still learning to heal. That night, Eli told his mom, "I met someone from Dad's past." Her face changed instantly.
Who?
Eli showed her the photo again. "His name is James." Tears filled her eyes. "James was like a brother to your dad," she said. "Then why didn't you ever talk about him?" She paused. "Because losing your father was hard enough. I couldn't bear to face the one who survived. But he's not the same now," Eli said. "He's trying. I think he just needs someone to believe in him again." His mom looked away, her lips trembling. "Maybe, you're right." Later that night, as Eli lay in bed, he thought about everything. The alley, the bullies, the moment James stepped out of the shadows, the moment that changed both their lives, and one truth became clear. Sometimes, broken people carry the most powerful stories, and sometimes, the people we think are lost are actually finding their way back. The next few days passed quietly. Eli went to school, he did his homework. But his heart was still in that alley. Every afternoon, he took the long way home just to sit with James. They didn't always talk. Sometimes, they just sat in silence, listening to the city sounds. But even silence has a voice when two souls are healing. One cloudy evening, Eli brought a small radio. He turned it on and placed it between them. Old music played, something from the 90s, a soft guitar, and a broken voice. James closed his eyes. "Your dad loved this song," he said. "Did you two grow up together?" Eli asked. James nodded slowly. "Same street, same school, same dreams. We both wanted to serve, protect, and make our fathers proud." He paused. "David always had the heart. I just followed his lead." Eli looked at James carefully. "Why did you disappear after he died?" James sighed. "Because I couldn't look anyone in the eye. Not your mom, not your grandparents, not even myself." "But you didn't do anything wrong," Eli said. James gave a sad smile. "That's the worst part, Eli. Sometimes, it's not what you do wrong, it's what you didn't do enough of." That night, back home, Eli watched his mom quietly. She stood at the kitchen counter, staring at an old photo album. He walked over slowly. "You miss him every day, don't you?" he asked. She turned her head, surprised. Then she nodded. "He was my world." Eli sat beside her. "What happened the day you found out?" She took a deep breath. There was a knock at the door. Two soldiers. One held a folded flag, the other handed me a box. I knew before they said a word. She touched the photo of David in uniform. "I asked about James. They said he was injured but alive." "Why? Didn't you ever try to find him?" Eli asked. She hesitated. "Because I was angry. I thought if James survived, why couldn't David?" A tear slid down her cheek, but anger is a heavy thing to carry for so long. Eli reached into his backpack and took out something. A folded note. James had given it to him that day. He wrote this. "For you." She read it slowly. Her hands shook. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but if I could turn back time, I would trade places with him. I was his shadow, his brother, and I failed him. But I never stopped missing you, or Eli." James, she looked up, her eyes wet. "He remembers. He never forgot," Eli said. The next day, Eli walked into the alley earlier than usual. James wasn't there. He waited and waited, but the alley stayed empty. He checked behind the dumpster. Nothing. He called softly. "James?" No answer. His heart started to race. He ran to the corner store nearby. "Have you seen a man with a brown coat and gray beard?" he asked the shopkeeper. "Yeah," the man replied. "He collapsed near the back an hour ago. Ambulance took him." Eli's stomach dropped. Cut 2. Hospital waiting room. Lee sat in a hard plastic chair, legs shaking, hands cold. His mom sat beside him. The nurse came out. "He's stable, weak, but awake." Eli stood up quickly. "Can I see him?" "Only for a few minutes." Inside the hospital room, James looked pale. His face was thinner. His hands had tubes. But when he saw Eli, he smiled weakly. "You found me." Eli nodded, trying not to cry. "You scared me." James chuckled softly. "First time I've been this warm in years." Eli's mom stepped forward. James's eyes widened. He looked away in shame. "You don't have to say anything," she said softly. "I've carried anger for too long." "But Eli's right. You never stopped caring," James whispered. "I would have given my life for him." She nodded. "I know, and maybe it's time you came home." James looked up. "Home," Eli smiled. "You don't need to hide in alleys anymore." The room was quiet, but something heavy lifted. The silence wasn't sad now. It was healing. That night, as rain tapped the windows, Eli looked out. He didn't just feel like a boy anymore. He felt like a bridge connecting two pieces of a broken past, and slowly, gently, they were becoming whole again. The next morning, James was still in the hospital. The room smelled like medicine, but it felt warm because Eli was there. He had brought a notebook and 2 pens. "I thought maybe you could write some things down," Eli said. "About you, about Dad." James took the notebook slowly, as if it were made of glass. "I haven't written in years." "It doesn't matter," Eli said. "I'll read it, every word." Later that day, James sat up in bed and began to write. His hands were shaky. His eyes blinked fast to keep the tears away. He wrote about childhood days with David Ely's father. He wrote about how they used to race bikes, sneak cookies, and dream about being heroes. We thought we could save the world, he scribbled. But I couldn't even save my brother. Meanwhile, Eli sat in the hallway with his mom. What happens next? He asked. She took a deep breath. When James is healthy, we'll figure it out. Maybe help him find a place, get him back on his feet. Can he stay with us? She hesitated. We'll see. But deep down, Eli already knew. They were no longer strangers. A few days later, James was discharged. He wore clean clothes, now sweatpants, a t-shirt, and sneakers Eli had brought him. He looked different, not just outside, but inside. Brighter, lighter. You look taller, Eli joked. Must be the hospital food. James smiled. Instead of returning to the alley, they went somewhere new. The old bridge by the river. David used to take Eli there. When he was little, now Eli brought James. They sat on the edge, legs dangling over the water. The city sparkled in front of them. You said once, you couldn't save him, Eli said. But I think you're wrong. James looked at him. How Eli pointed to the water. You saved the part of him that lives in me. If you hadn't stopped those bullies, if you hadn't shown up that day, I might never have known this side of my dad. James swallowed hard. He would have been proud of you. I hope so, Eli said. They sat quietly for a moment. Then Eli took a folded paper out of his pocket. I wrote something too. He opened it and began to read. Some people think heroes wear capes, but I met one in a torn coat. He didn't fly. He didn't fight wars with his fists. He fought the war inside his heart. He carried shame, loss, and pain, but still stood up for someone he didn't know. And when I needed him the most, he showed up. His name is James, and he was my dad's best friend. But now, he's mine too. James covered his face, but this time, he wasn't hiding from pain. He was hiding from joy. Suddenly, Eli's mom appeared with 2 coffees in hand. She gave one to James. It's not army coffee, she said, but it's hot. James chuckled. That's good enough for me. She sat beside them. David used to bring me here before we were married, she said. He said the wind here made him feel free. James nodded. He was right. The sun started to set. Orange and gold painted the sky, and under that bridge, 3 people sat connected by love, lost in healing. The past could not be changed, but the future, it was wide open. That night, Eli looked out his bedroom window. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like something was missing. He felt whole, because sometimes, the people we lose leave behind people who help us find ourselves. The next morning, a soft knock came on Eli's bedroom door. It was his mom. She held a small wooden box, one Eli had never seen before. This belonged to your father, she said gently. I kept it all these years, but maybe now, it's time. Eli sat up in bed, curious. She placed the box on his lap. There's something inside, he wrote before his last mission. I never opened it because I was scared of what it might say. Her voice cracked slightly. But now, I think you and James deserve to know. Eli opened the box slowly. Inside was a neatly folded blue envelope. On it, in his father's handwriting, were the words, for James. If I don't return? Eli stared at it for a long time. Do you want to give it to him? His mom asked. No, Eli replied. We'll give it to him. Later that day, they visited the park, where James now spent his mornings sitting on a bench by the duck pond. He was feeding crumbs to the birds. When he saw them, Eli walked up and handed him the letter. It's from my dad, he said. He wrote it for you. James held the envelope carefully, as if it was made of glass. He didn't speak for a full minute. Then he slowly opened it and began to read. James, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it back. Don't blame yourself. We both knew the risks. We both made choices. And if I had to do it again, I'd still have gone in. Because that's who we are. You always called me the brave one. But James, you were the heart. You always cared too deeply. That's not weakness. That's your strength. If you feel lost, if you feel broken, remember this. You still have something to give. The world still needs you. And Eli, if you ever meet him, don't hide. He'll need you, just like I did. You're my brother. Always, David. Tears streamed down James's face as he folded the letter back up. He looked up at Eli. He never stopped believing in me. Even when I gave up on myself, Eli's mom nodded. He saw the good in you. So do we. James took a deep breath. Maybe it's time I stop running. From what? Eli asked. James looked up at the sky. From the past. From the guilt? Maybe it's time to stop being the man in the alley and start being someone Eli can be proud of. That evening, they walked James to a community center. The director, a kind woman named Ms. Lane, greeted them at the door. He can stay here, she said. Warm bed, clean food, and a program to help him get back on his feet. James looked at Eli. Thank you for not giving up on me. Eli smiled. You saved me first. I just returned the favor. Over the next few days, James began to change. He got a haircut. He joined a writing group. He started helping clean the kitchen at the center. People noticed. There's something strong in him, Ms. Lane said. Like he was built for more. Eli nodded proudly. One afternoon, Eli visited James with a new notebook. You said once you haven't written in years. He said, think it's time you start. James opened the first page. What should I write about? Write about the man you were, the man you became, and the boy who helped you come back. James smiled. That sounds like a good story. That night, as the stars lit up the sky, James sat by the window of his room at the center, holding the letter from David close to his heart. For the first time in years, he felt peace. Because some letters don't just speak to the past, they show the path to the future. Weeks had passed. The leaves were starting to change color. The air felt cooler. Eli stood outside the community center, waiting. Done. The door opened and James stepped out. But this wasn't the same James from the alley. He had a fresh haircut, a clean shirt, straight shoulders. He looked ready. How do I look? James asked with a nervous smile. Like someone getting his second chance, Eli replied proudly. James had been offered a part-time job at the local library. Ms. Lane had seen how much he liked writing and helping others. It's not much, she had said, but it's a beginning. That morning, James held a bag with a sandwich. Eli's mom packed the notebook Eli had gifted him, now full of scribbled memories and dreams. Let's walk there together, Eli offered. Like old friends, James asked. Like family, Eli said, as they walked. They passed the alley, the same alley where it had all started. James stopped and stared at it for a moment. I used to live in that shadow, he said. Now, I feel like I finally stepped into the light. You didn't just step out, Eli said. You pulled me out too. At the library, the manager greeted James with a smile. You're early, she said. Wanted to start strong, James replied. Eli stood nearby, proud like a son watching his dad. See you after school, he asked. Wouldn't miss it, James said. Back at home, Eli told his mom everything. She smiled as she placed dinner plates on the table. I never imagined this day, she said. You mean James getting a job? No, you having someone like him in your life. She looked out the window thoughtfully. It's like a piece of your dad found its way back to us. Later that week, James began volunteering at a weekend youth group. He helped kids who struggled, just like he once did. Boy, Toby, was always angry, always silent. But James didn't give up. You remind me of myself, he told him. What if I don't want to be like you? Toby snapped. Then be better, James replied. Toby blinked, surprised. Then Dash nodded. Meanwhile, Eli started writing too. Inspired by James's notebook, he began telling the story from his eyes. A man in a torn coat saved me from bullies, he wrote, but I didn't know. He was the man who would change my whole life. One evening, Eli gave James his story to read. James stayed up all night. When he finished, he said one thing, let's turn this into a book. Eli's eyes widened. Really? Yes. You tell your side, I'll tell mine. And maybe someone out there who's lost like I was will read it and come back too. Together, they began writing every weekend. Eli's mom would bring snacks. Ms. Lane helped them find a local publisher who loved their story. Real, raw, hopeful, the publisher said. The world needs this. The title, The Man in the Alley. A story of pain and healing, of regret and forgiveness, of second chances. On the day the book came out, the small library was packed. People clapped, some cried. James gave a short speech. I thought I had nothing left, but I was wrong. I had a second chance waiting for me, in the form of a boy. With his father's courage and his own kind heart. He looked at Eli. Thank you for pulling me out of the dark. Eli stood and said just one line. You didn't need saving. You just needed someone to believe you could be saved. That night, James sat on the bridge with Eli and his mom. The city lights flickered, and James said quietly, your dad would be proud of you. Eli and I finally feel proud of myself because the greatest heroes are the ones who rise after falling. And sometimes, all they need is a second chance. 1 year later, the small book titled The Man in the Alley had gone further than anyone expected. Local schools used it in classrooms. Youth centers gave it to troubled teens. Even libraries in other cities requested copies. But for Eli and James, the true reward wasn't fame. It was healing. Eli was now 14, taller, more confident, still kind. James, he had a full-time job now, helping youth who had no one. He had moved into a small apartment not far from the community center, and every Sunday, he had dinner at Eli's house, just like family. One Sunday, as they cleared the table, Eli's mom brought out a box. It was old, wooden, carved by hand. This was David's, she said, placing it in front of James. Why are you giving it to me? James asked, surprised. Because it always belonged to both of you. Inside was a collection of letters, medals, and old photos. James picked up a picture of 2 boys on bikes, laughing wildly. That's us, he whispered, before the war. Before we grew up too fast. Eli looked at the medal. What's this one? James smiled. That's the bravery medal. Your dad earned it when he saved 3 soldiers trapped in a burning truck. Eli touched the medal gently. Then you both were heroes. James didn't speak for a moment, then quietly said he was the hero. I was just trying to follow his light. Later that night, they walked to the same old bridge. Now, a special place in their story. The wind was cool. The city glowed below. James leaned over the railing and said, "You know, I used to hate this view, because I thought I didn't deserve beauty anymore." Eli looked up at him. "And now I see it, and think, I survived. And I'm still here, because someone didn't give up on me." Suddenly, Eli pulled something from his backpack, a new letter, in an envelope. "What's this?" James asked. "A letter? From me, to someone else who feels lost. You helped me. Now I want to help the next person." James smiled, but with tears in his eyes. "You're becoming the kind of man your father would have been proud of." "I had good teachers," Eli replied. Months later, their story reached a national stage. They were invited to speak at a youth conference. Hundreds of students, parents, teachers, all gathered in silence as Eli stepped onto the stage. He spoke clearly, his voice strong. "I used to think heroes wore uniforms. I didn't know one could be homeless and still be brave. A man in a torn coat saved me when I needed it the most." But what he didn't know was that he saved himself too. This story isn't just about pain. It's about hope, about choosing to believe in people even when they've stopped believing in themselves. Because sometimes, the most broken hearts become the most beautiful stories. The crowd rose to its feet. Tears, applause, hope. Backstage, James hugged Eli tightly. "You didn't just write a story," James said. "You created a legacy. Double quotes. Legacy. Not something you leave behind in silence, but something you pass forward in hearts." That night, back at the bridge, Eli looked at the sky. One star seemed to shine brighter than the rest. "You watching, Dad?" he whispered. "He's doing better now. And I'm okay too." He smiled. "Thanks for sending him to me." As the wind passed, soft and steady, it almost felt like a whisper. "Proud of you, son."